A Hall of Famer, two-time MVP, three-time Super Bowl MVP, and a perfect 4-0 in Super Bowls, Joe Montana has to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. But was he actually that good? Football is a team game, and so it's hard to distill the performance of one player from everything that surrounds him, even one as important as quarterback. We know Patrick Mahomes is great, but how great would he be if he'd been drafted by the Chicago Bears instead of the Kansas City Chiefs? How much credit do Andy Reid or Travis Kelce deserve for how good Mahomes is? It's not zero, but it's obviously also not all of the credit either. So it would be remiss to not at least point out the impact of Bill Walsh and the West Coast offense on Joe Montana's success. Walsh pioneered a schematic revolution in the NFL with a focus on short, efficient passing rather than power running or low percentage deep passing. His offense powered quarterbacks to success, both before Montana and after him. At least 10 Super Bowls have been won by offenses running a fairly direct descendant of Walsh's offense, and you can probably credit him with a couple of more if you want to trace the branches of his coaching tree far enough. When you look at stats, Montana doesn't tend to stack up against the very best of all time. He's 13th in something called career approximate value, an attempt by Pro Football Reference to quantify the value of players over the years, adjusted for era. He sinks even lower when you look at weighted AV, which focuses more on a player's peak. He's only 17th in career fourth quarter comebacks. And in case you think that's a product of the 49ers being just so dominant and winning every week, number 1 and number 2 in that stat are Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, two of the winningest quarterbacks in NFL history. Montana is only 25th in career game-winning drives. Derek Carr has more game-winning drives than Montana did. It's actually difficult to find stats in which he ranks amongst the true all-time elite, even those adjusting for era. It's even kind of hard to find stats in which he even beats his successor, Steve Young, other than, I guess, the most important stat, championships. And when it comes down to it, that's what Montana's legacy is created by. He built his legend with huge drives in huge moments and stacked them on top of each other to reinforce the lore, forging an aura along the way. For Montana, the number of comebacks isn't as important as the magnitude and gravity of the ones he did have. One of his first college appearances was coming back from a 20-point deficit against Air Force in the fourth quarter. Against Houston, down 34-12, Montana scored 3 touchdowns in the final 8 minutes, the last one at the death, and he did that after needing to be fed chicken soup for half the game to save him from hypothermia. It was named the Chicken Soup Bowl. It continued in the NFL. He dragged the 49ers back from 35-7 down against the Saints in his second season. And then there was the catch. The 49ers were home underdogs against Dallas, down late, yet Montana hits an improbable comeback signature play to win. The Super Bowl, a 92-yard drive, touchdown to John Taylor. These comebacks and moments didn't just build a resume, they built the legend of Joe Cool. The 49ers had been a bad franchise before Montana got there. Acting as savior for a beleaguered fan base only helped the magic. There's a constant tension between the need to quantify everything, to add some objectivity to the analysis of how great a player is, and the understanding that perhaps the biggest part of greatness will always be intangible. Montana's teammates talk about him in reverential terms. They had unwavering belief that he could lead them back from any deficit, even if he'd been instrumental in putting them in that deficit in the first place. The number of these comeback stories that seem to begin only after Montana is multiple turnovers deep is incredible. Analytics and stats try to put objectivity into these debates. Dial in on the most important things that are repeatable and therefore predictive, because theoretically, that irons out the impact that luck and circumstance has. But ultimately, legacies are defined by those critical high-leverage moments, and whether or not it was some intangible, innate quality possessed only by the best, or simply things breaking in one direction several times in a row, it doesn't really matter. Did Tom Brady win so many Super Bowls because a lot of breaks went his way, or because he's the greatest player to ever live? Even if it's getting fortunate, those things breaking his way are why he's the greatest. Maybe another quarterback given 100 drives to win the game would score more times than Joe Montana. But Montana did it the times that mattered the most. He was undefeated in the Super Bowl. That's something not even Tom Brady can claim. And his career is littered with moments that make legends. Ultimately, isn't that what defines greatness in the first place?